Yo, 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 what's going on?
What
Round
up,
Store
dogs?
Redzone today. I'm your host, Ali, and we got...
Brendan here again. How's it going, everyone?
All right, and today we're going to be talking about just a guide for rebuilding Dynasty teams. So,
Yeah, we're going to walk you through how to take your team from trash to a contender.
yeah. And I know it's a frustrating time. You know, you're at week 2. You're staring down the barrel. You're looking at Brian Thomas. You're looking at... Who else is underperforming right now?
Oh, gosh. All kinds of guys.
You're looking at, all sorts of players right now. You're
Yeah.
looking at Brock Bowers,
Yeah,
who got injured.
You're the guy who finished last year, and you have Ashton Genty. Thought he was going to really carry you through, and he's now you're sitting here 0-2, 0-4. If you got a medium, you got 0 victory points, whatever it may be. It's not looking great for you, and you're starting to, the thoughts are creeping in.
Yeah, so I guess we'll get started. So I want to start us off by saying that doing a complete rebuild is very dependent on what your team looks like. For example, like if you're just having a bad season in Dynasty, like it's fine. It happens. You know what I mean? Your players are not going to be great every single week of every single year. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. So if your team has all the right pieces and you're just having a bad year.
Just a slow start.
Yeah, or a slow start. Like, it's fine. You don't need to tear down your whole team. Don't fall into the gaslighting of your team members who just want your players. You know what I mean? Like, if you're, I don't know, let's say you're 0-2 right now. You don't have a median. You're 0-2, and you have all the guys. You know what I mean? You have young or you have, good. For example, you even have Justin Jefferson, right?
So you got Genty
I mean?
and Gibbs, or
Yeah.
or Jefferson. He's a guy who hasn't really popped. Chase had a rough week 1.
Yeah. You have those guys, and your team is overall fine. They're if your players are talented and they're good and they usually are performing very well in fantasy, you don't need to tear it down. You know what I mean? But where the rebuild really happens is if you're looking at your team and you have maybe 1 or 2 valuable assets, you don't have many picks of your own left, and the rest of your players are all guys that have either lost their jobs or in the process of losing their jobs or are just not good. You know what I mean? For example, you just have, I don't know, who's somebody who just lost their job recently? I just can't think off the top of my head.
I mean, it's tough because it's only week 2. Or like a Rashad White is a guy you might have invested in, and then Bucky Irving came along and ruined it for you.
Or, for example, Najee Harris. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Najee Harris all these
another
years,
guy,
and now he's, second fiddle to Omarion, which doesn't seem like it, the way they played him last week. But
yeah. Well, Marion getting stripped by Max Crosby certainly didn't help his case.
No, it did not. But yeah, I mean, so that's the type of guy that should be rebuilding. You know what I mean? If you're in that situation, then yeah, you should be rebuilding. But the way to rebuild, I feel like it's kind of lost upon people a lot of times because a lot of times people will be like, you know what, that's it. I'm cleaning house, getting rid of everyone, going to do a rebuild, blah blah blah, and then they screw themselves over. You know, I think they forget that Dynasty should be played in 2 to 3 year windows. You know what I mean? You're not playing. You're not rebuilding for a 10-year. 10 years the league might not exist. You know what I mean? So it's okay, you're rebuilding in a 2 to 3 year window. What do you need to do right now to be able to maybe contending by the time 2 years are up? You know what I mean? You maybe even takes you just 1 season to be ready to compete, but. That's just the type of things that you should be looking for. Yeah. So, Brendan, why don't you start us off? What would you do if you got a team right now, you got no picks, you have your own.
No picks, that's tough.
Your most valuable asset is Jamar Chase, and and then you just got you got a few good quarterbacks in a super flex.
Yeah. Well, I certainly wouldn't trade Jamar Chase to a team that doesn't have my own picks coming back. But I think. So, yeah, I think for me, overall rebuilding, I've successfully rebuilt 1 team in Dynasty, and the blueprint I went about, I think a lot of it matters how your league is, too. I think that's important, too. The bigger your roster size is, the more important it is to kind of, be careful blowing your whole team up. If you play, I am in 1 Dynasty league that's a tri-flex, super flex, so it's you have to start 2 flex guys, a tight end, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 2 quarterbacks every week. So that's a lot of guys. It's you need a lot of players to have a really good team, and you need 2 or 3 guys you can roll in off the bench too. So in a league like that, it's tough to be oh, you're just going to trade away every solid player you have. It's going to take you a long time to in a league like that. If you had say you had Saquon Barkley and George Kittle and like
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, Devontae Adams, sure. Or even that's a good three guys. They're all guys that are really good, still pretty solid fantasy players, but they're just like towards the ends, like towards past their primes. I mean, Saquon's in the middle of his prime, but the other two guys, like they're getting up there in age. So it's like you're moving guys like that. You might get back like a first round pick, but what you have to be careful is you can't be tagging too much along with them either. You don't want to like be tagging Devontae in a third for one pick back and stuff like that, because when you start losing like these picks and like kind of quantity of stuff, you got to be careful in a bigger league like that is my point. Like your first round pick might not end up producing a guy like Devontae. Like sometimes the answer isn't always draft capital. Sometimes you want to just tier down and get a younger guy with upside and maybe like a second round pick, like trade a Devontae Adams for like I don't know. I think a Ricky Pearsall is a little too rich now, but maybe like a I'm trying to think of
Matthew
a good guy.
Golden, maybe.
Yeah, maybe like a Matthew Golden or like a Jaden Higgins is a good example of a guy in a second. Maybe you could get Jaden Higgins in a second round pick for Devontae Adams, and you're kind of insulating that value. Like Devontae Adams is solid. Maybe Jaden Higgins is good. If he's not, I have this second round pick to work with. I think the biggest thing with rebuilding is you want to be adding value. You want to be like using whatever you use to kind of equate value to things. You want to have like a numerical value, like a second round pick is worth this much to me, a player's worth about this much to me, and you want to just be adding to that. The biggest thing is just acquiring value. Acquiring draft picks is obviously important because if you're rebuilding, you want to get those higher picks, but don't spend time hoarding third and fourth round picks, because you have to keep in mind too, just like the roster construction. You can only roster so many guys. That's something I see people really, when they're rebuilding, they make a big mistake is they start trading guys for all these picks, and then they're moving one guy for 3 picks in the same draft and stuff. And then it's like, well, you can't roster 9 guys a lot of the time onto your team and stuff like that. So it's like those third and fourth round picks become useless for you because you're just cutting them or you end up trading them for cheaper anyway. So you have to keep that in mind. You want to spread whatever you're getting across a couple years. But yeah, like Ollie said, you're looking to basically turn it around in 2, maybe 3 years. So you're trying to get picks in those next couple drafts to really just like be able to then take guys and kind of turn your team around. And like we've seen in recent history, rookies can be really effective right away. If you're the kind of guy that the last 2 drafts, for example, have been great for if you're rebuilding. I think the Chase draft was a really good one. If you had been rebuilding that year and had 2 or 3 picks, you could have got like Jamar Chase was in that draft.
Jalen Waddle.
I think there's a chance that was Amon-Ra's draft. I mean, he would have gone a lot later, but there was a lot of really good players in that draft. And then the year before that was actually the ultimate one. That was with Jefferson, Herbert, Burrow, CeeDee Lamb,
Jonathan Taylor too, right?
I think Jonathan Taylor was in that draft. Obviously, Judy has been a little better now. There's definitely a couple guys in that draft that you could have got screwed on if you were picking really early with Ruggs and
I thought of.
whatever. Tua isn't exactly been the greatest in the world, but you get the idea. So, like, there is drafts where you can hit home runs. Last year's was a big one with Neighbors, Jaden Daniels, Brock Bowers, and Thomas Jr. Like, if you had 2-3 picks in the first 10 picks, you definitely got 1 or 2 of those guys, and all of a sudden your team's turned around quick. So, I think the big thing is you just want to acquire value, but you got to just keep in mind roster kind of construction and the logic behind that, how many guys you can roster. And then the big thing I preach with rebuilding is wait for the right trade to come to you. There's no urgency on your end. You're losing anyway, and you're probably going to lose with these older guys you have anyway. You don't have to worry about speed. Don't be stressed out to move them. Yes, there is a sense of urgency in the sense that you want to move them eventually. You don't want them to be on your roster all year, but in most leagues, there's a pretty deep trade deadline. It goes up till week 11, 12. You want to see who's competing and see who's really maybe gets like excited about the guys on your team, and then you can move them to that guy. You want to be the one dictating the kind of trade. You don't want to be someone dictating it to you in this sense, because you're in the position of power. You have the player they want. They're trying to compete. For sure. You're trying to rebuild. And
I think I'll kind of mention that. I don't want to cut you off there.
No,
like
go ahead.
If you do have like a what's it called, like a dynasty or like a team cornerstone, you know what I mean, like a Jamar Chase or a Malik Neighbors, for example, right? You don't have to trade them. You know what I mean? Like no matter, like it's like, that's the guy you're building your entire team around. Or for example, in Superflex, I don't know, maybe the rest of your team kind of sucks and has like aging assets or whatever, but maybe you have like, I don't know, maybe you have like Jaden Daniels or something. You don't need to move them. You know, like you can build around them. That's a cornerstone you want to build your team around. Like you don't, and if you have to move them, for example, the rest of your team sucks so much that that's the only valuable piece you have. It doesn't have to be a fair trade. You don't need to sit there and justify to the person who's trying to buy it off you. Listen, I think this is a fair trade. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Everyone will overpay for Malik Neighbors. Everyone will overpay for Jamar Chase. Everyone will overpay for Steelan because they know that player is never hitting the market otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's okay to make them overpay.
Yeah,
I
agree.
If they sit there and they try to tell you, well, this offer is fair, or I'm not doing it, then okay. Goodbye.
That's the thing. It's okay to people get really hung up on like they get excited about trades and then they're not willing to like kind of move off it. It's okay to be like, well, I guess the deal's not going to happen today. Like, and take advantage of the people in your league, who are like they really want to make the trade. They can't help sitting on it. They need
dopamine hit.
Yeah, like those are the guys you can really take advantage of when you say, okay, like, oh wait, I guess the trade's not going to happen today. That's okay by me. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow. And sometimes they'll come back and say, fine, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so. But yeah, you make a really good point, Ali. Like kind of what one of the points I wanted to get to is just you don't have to sell every player on your team.
Yeah.
You like we said, 2-3 year windows. If it's a big roster, you can't sell everyone. You're not going to be able to replace that talent and really be competitive again. I think you want to sell like the older players, like the Devontae Adams, the George Kittles of the world, the people who are contending. And you want to hold on, though, like you said, your cornerstones. Like I don't think Jamar Chase is a guy you should trade in any league. I don't think there's really enough value that you could get back. Even if you get 3 first-round picks back, like that guy's team is X amount better. Those are probably not going to be early first-round picks. And like so, the trade I use is I was in a Dynasty league. I traded Derrick Henry. I've mentioned it before on here. And I was thrilled at the time. I got like 3 first-round picks back and 2 second-round picks. It was just a standard kind of setup league, PPR points, but no super flex, just regular. We even have kickers and defenses in that league. And I was super excited about the picks I got back. And I was able, luckily, the silver lining is that I used one of those picks to get Saquon Barkley in a package with some other stuff on my team, and I ended up really winning that trade. So I got Saquon Barkley out of this trade, but the 2 other guys I got with those picks, like those first-round picks, was Jordan Addison and then Treylon Burks. Those were the 2 guys that I had gotten with those picks. And those guys are not even close to replacing the value on Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So you do have to be careful. Like you don't want to move these like top 5 players and unless you can use those picks in other trade like I did. But if you're just kind of going to sit on them and draft, you're not always going to find a replacement talent. There's no guarantee trading Jamar Chase's with one of those first-round picks is going to be Jamar Chase again. In fact, I would say you're way more likely than not it's not going to be Jamar Chase again.
No, I agree 100%.
So,
and it's like funny enough that you kind of mentioned that. I kind of talked about it. Like it's funny. I was offered in a contending team. I was offered 2 first-round picks and Bashal Tootin for Brian Thomas Jr. And I know people have their opinions on Brian Thomas Jr. right now. They're like, oh, my God, he's scared to get hit. Oh, my God, that's it. His career's over. Oh, my God, we're going to drop his value in a keep trade cut. I don't care. I'm not taking that trade. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
what do you like? Like, there's no way. Like, I would have to sit there, wish, and pray that I find a receiver like Brian Thomas Jr. with those 2 first-round picks.
Yeah,
that's what I'm basically doing. Like, I'm basically saying I'm gonna give up this guy who had 2 bad games, and he has a whole sample size of his rookie year where he put up stats that only people like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and only the most elite receivers who's ever played the game put up. And I'm going to trade that guy because he had 2 bad games or because Twitter warriors think that he's scared to catch the ball when they've never taken a hit before in their life. And I'm going to trade him for 2 chances at a lottery, pretty much pretending like, oh, I'm going to hit on someone over here that is going to be nearly as good as Brian Thomas Jr. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to happen. Like, you need to, like, if you're going to move a cornerstone piece like that, you need to get a return. You know what I mean? You need to get a return that, and like you said, you can't. There's no way of knowing you'll ever hit on those picks. And if somebody tries to tell you, "Hey, listen, I'm going to give you this pick right here. This is going to be an early pick," how do you know that? You don't know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
there's no guarantee.
It could end up being a late pick. So you don't know. And like, how many of these players have we seen? You know what I mean? How many players have come out of college that are Malik Neighbors or Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson? Not many. And a lot of them don't even end up going to that favorable situation where they can even be that guy. You know what I mean? For example, Garrett Wilson's a great example of this. He's very talented. He deserves to be, blowing up a lot more as a receiver than he does, but his situation sucks. So it's like he's doing very good with what he's been given. He's a fantasy relevant wide receiver. He's a wide receiver 2, with upside for wide receiver 1, but I mean, if the situation was different, maybe he'd be a wide receiver 1 undisputed, top 5 every single year if he was in a better situation. So you don't know that. You know what I mean? Maybe you think some guy is more talented than the guy you're holding on to right now in a draft, but what if they just go to a terrible team and then never get the ball? So it's like, all right, what's the point of that?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like you just don't know. There's no certainties. You only have the certainties around, to a certain extent, obviously, still, of the player you have right now.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's like there's just guys you can't trade. Like, I think there's like a short list of young guys who are like going to be good for a while. And like, especially guys who are young enough, like they're going to survive your rebuild, like Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson's. Like those guys are still going to be good in 2 years and like, there you go. If you can add 2 or 3 cornerstones to them, then you're really rolling there. So, and then one other point I want to make quickly too is, I think if you're debating a rebuild right now and whatnot and stuff, I think one thing is you should not, like, you really shouldn't be going into a rebuild if you don't have your own first round pick. I think that's a pretty key point to make. Like, I've seen a couple times people, they decide, okay, I'm going to blow it up, but then they don't have their own first round pick. And it's like, losing does you no good when you don't have your own first round pick. You should still be trying to win in a sense, because it's like, you're rebuilding and you're collecting other people's picks by trading this stuff. But like, what good does losing do you at that point that season? You still kind of want to win every week, because like, you don't have your own pick. It makes no difference. Like the other people, if anything, you want to beat the other people whose picks you have too and stuff. So I think step one is, if you're thinking about rebuilding and whatever, is you got to go get your own first round picks back. I mean, that's somewhere where I think you definitely, the other person holds the power and you might have to overpay, but it might be worth it. I mean, if your team's going to be bad enough, it could be pick 1.
Yeah.
You might want to identify that earlier in the season, then you wait till you're like 2-7 and the other guy knows that pick's going to be Jeremiah Love next year or Lenora Sellers. And he's saying, there's no way I'm going to give it back to you unless you're giving me Josh Allen back or something. So I think it's, you definitely want to have your own picks if you're looking at a rebuild. I think it's okay if you don't have your picks down the road, because things change. It's a quick moving landscape. You can figure it out, but you definitely want to have your most immediate first round pick for sure if you're really going to rebuild.
For sure. I think another point I would like to make is kind of like with rebuilds, you really want to make sure that you're rebuilding around wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends. Those are the people, especially like if you're in a super flex league, it's got to be the quarterback. You're rebuilding around quarterbacks, maybe even an elite wide receiver if you have one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in tight end premium, you should be rebuilt, because these are players that when you draft them or you acquire them, they last longer. They last so much longer than a running back does. I mean, people can have their opinions on this, but I don't know what you think about this yourself, but I don't think it's a smart idea to build around a running back. You know what I mean? Like, it's like okay, like if you, for example, were to get a running back and you're not going to be necessarily, I don't know, ready to compete within the next 2 years. Maybe it takes you another extra third year to compete. Like, what's the point of wasting that pick on that? But then again, it also kind of depends on best player available.
Yeah,
right? You know what I mean?
I was going to say, I think it depends where you're picking too. If you have the first pick, you're not going to not take Genty, but I think you could entertain offers too, and maybe if you can move back to 3 and get Tet and then a high first round of the following year.
Exactly.
So
I think it makes more sense to do something like that, where especially with Genty this past year, I mean, you could have gotten like 3 first round picks.
Yeah, people were desperate for him. The hype was unreal. I almost thought, I really did before, if I was in that position, I was taking Genty, that there was so much hype around him that it just made more sense to
trade back. Almost.
I mean, to trade back and get other stuff.
It was funny. I was seeing all these like posts on Reddit on people like trading like Bijan or Gibbs for Genty, and I was like, why? Like, I'm confused about what the logic here is. Why would you trade a guaranteed young running back for a gamble? Like, Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's so. You got to be careful with the trades you make. And then you also got to be realistic, too. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, yes, you're the one who has the power. So if somebody like Jamar Chase, if you're going to sell him, you want to sell him for as much value as you can get, and it has to be an overpay for you. But if you have a guy like Aaron Jones, who is 30 years old, multiple soft tissue injuries, banged up all the time, doesn't necessarily have a guaranteed job, and a contender comes to you and says, listen, I'll give you my first-round pick for Aaron Jones. I kind of need a running back. Let's make this deal happen. Don't say no. I need 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
It's like okay. Like you might lose that trade opportunity on somebody like Aaron Jones. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if anybody's going to pay you 2 first-round picks for Aaron Jones, and I don't know if anybody's even going to pay you a first-round pick for Aaron Jones because everybody knows he's an injury-prone running back. So why would you squander an opportunity like that? Because he's going to either be cut from your team when he's not usable anymore, or you can trade him for a first-round pick right now. You know what I mean?
So Aaron Jones is like a good example because he's 12 months away from being a guy that could be worth absolutely nothing,
exactly.
like a 4th-round pick.
Exactly. So it's just like, you want to cash in on an opportunity like that, get that first-round pick, and use that first-round pick, because somebody I know, they have Aaron Jones on their team, and I offered them a first-round pick last year because I was really struggling at running back, and thank God that they did not take that deal because that was fantastic. I actually ended up getting Jahmyr Gibbs out of that first-round pick, so thank God. But I offered them a first-round pick for Aaron Jones, and they said, no, I need 2 first-round picks because with the first-round pick, I'm going to find somebody to replace Aaron Jones, and with the second first-round pick, I'm going to win this trade. And I was like, well, I'm not giving you 2 first-round picks for a running back that's 29 years old at that time.
Yeah.
He did finish RB15 last year, but it was still not worth it. You know what I mean? It's still not worth it in Dynasty for me to give you 2 assets or 2, picks that could end up being something. You know what I mean? That could be better than Aaron Jones in the long term or even in the short term because I got Jahmyr Gibbs out of those 2 first-round picks. So I don't know. It's if you're a rebuilder and somebody's coming to offer you a lot for an aging player, and just take it. You know what I mean? You should take an opportunity like that to sell that running back. Don't become too hasty either. You know what I mean? Yes, you wanna use your power to oversell on guys that are worth overselling on, but if somebody's already overpaying you for someone, just take the deal. You don't need to.
Don't be greedy.
Exactly. You don't need to sit there and ask for 2 first-round picks for Aaron Jones. Now, if somebody's offering you 4 first-rounders for Jamar Chase and you want more, that's fine, in my opinion. Because, you might need 5 first-rounders to find a guy nearly as good as Jamar Chase or find the value in trading Jamar Chase, but this is not Jamar Chase. You know what I mean? This is Aaron Jones. So
Yeah, I agree. And I think the only way I'm really trading Jamar Chase is, like you said earlier, if he's the only guy on your team that is really worth much and he's your key to success. But, I think I am a big proponent of you should almost never take the first offer someone sends you. You should try and negotiate a little bit because it's if they're sending you that's their whatever, they're probably going less than what they're actually willing to give up. I always am going to try to go up a little more on that. I think it can kill trades and sometimes they're just not willing to budge. And if I was okay with the initial offer, I will take it. But you don't want to be unrealistic, like Ali said, in those offers. I think you've got to be within the realm of possibilities kind of for what you're going to get back. And then, I guess the other thing is don't be so out on older players when you're rebuilding either. I think a healthy team in Dynasty, your ultimate goal, right, is you want to compete and build for the future. So a healthy team is you got your cornerstones, you got your 3, 4. In a perfect world, you'd have 2, 3 cornerstones that are young. They're less than 25. They're going to still contribute now, and those are going to be your guys long term. And then you want 2 or 3 guys that were cornerstones,
for sure.
Maybe I still consider Saquon Barkley a cornerstone, but he's kind of getting close. A Derrick Henry's an example of a running back that he's obviously super good, super effective, going to help you compete, but he's not necessarily a guy you're planning on being your rock for the next 5 years, like a Jahmyr Gibbs. So in an ideal world, you'd have a Jahmyr Gibbs and maybe if you were coming off a rebuild, Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe you have Marvin Harrison or Neighbors, and then you have Tyler Warren at tight end, and those are your 3 guys. You're okay, those guys are real young, should be studs. They're going to anchor me for the next 5 years. And then you have maybe Devontae Adams. Maybe you have George Kittle mixed in there in your flex. Maybe you have, a Terry McLaurin or a Derrick Henry kind of mixed in. And those are guys that are they're pretty solid, going to be good. And they're going to be good for the next 2-3 years. You don't have to dump them right now, but they're going to help you compete. And you're kind of, and then in your back pocket, you have all your picks still. Maybe you add an extra second or 2. It's okay. I think if you're kind of in the midst of a competing stretch to not have every single first round pick you're ever going to have, but if you have more seconds and stuff like that and kind of make it work. But in a perfect world, when you do rebuild, it's not your whole team is going to be 23-year-old studs and you're going to, like Ali said, you're not going to be ready to compete for 10 years. Realistically, you need to insulate your lineup with veterans. So it's while you're planning on a rebuild, yes, you want to trade veterans and stuff, but your guys who are 27, 28 who could be those kind of insulating players later, like don't undersell is what I think we're getting at. Like you want to only give up if you're gaining value, and I think those are just key points. Like I think like if you don't go about it that way, rebuilding can be a really dangerous thing, and like all of a sudden you could be looking at like a 5 or 6 year rebuild if you don't do it right. Like you sell everyone, or you don't sell for enough value back, or you make bad decisions. Like it's very easy to miss on your rookie draft picks. They like blow their knee out, or they just don't pan out, and it's like then you're in trouble. So
well, also the other thing I'd kind of like to mention, like one last thing, is that if again, I think people get very enamored by the rookie draft. A lot of times when they get closer and closer to that rookie draft, they get very enamored by it, and they have their guys, and they're like, oh my God, like I got to draft this guy, I got to draft that guy. And if you're in possession of that many first-round picks or second-round picks or whatever that is, take that guaranteed guy off them. You don't know if that draft pick is going to hit. But if you know there's a guaranteed guy that they're willing to offer you for that draft pick, take it. Mm-hmm. Why not? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. For example, a good example, this was a trade that I saw on Twitter. Again, somebody giving you Jahmyr Gibbs for Gentry, take it. Like that's not even like a question. Just take the trade. You know what I mean? Like it's like you know what Jahmyr Gibbs is. You know he's young on top of that. You know what I mean? You know what he is. Just take it. You don't know what Gentry is. Or if somebody's like, you know what? I gotta get Omarion Hampton. Yeah. I'm in love with Omarion Hampton. I gotta do it. Here's Drake London.
Yeah.
Accept. That's it. Like there's nothing else to it. Just accept it. That's it right there.
Yeah, Drake London's 23-year-old stud who's proven.
Exactly. It's like one of those things. Like if you can get a proven young talent from somebody who's obsessed with a rookie, just give them the pick. You know, like it's like
feast on the rookie hype for sure.
Exactly. And I mean, if you're a rebuilding team, the smartest strategies you could do is, number one, be very smart with your trading, and then number two, be very cognizant of rookie hype. If you're kind of aware of how much hype there is around certain rookies, specifically if a guy falls to you at your pick, all of a sudden you're sitting there and everybody's big on, I don't know, this past year, Travis Hunter. Everybody's really big on Travis Hunter or something for some reason. There's somebody in your league who just is in love with Travis Hunter, and you're sitting at that pick, and you're like, you know what? Let's see what I can get out of it.
Yeah.
Get something out of it. You know what I mean? It's definitely a good opportunity to use that opportunity to get something out of it. And then the third thing is, if there's guys that are, falling down in value, and again, you're a rebuilding team, you have a lot of draft assets, you have some older players, there's a contending team. For example, a Nico Collins this year, right? He's not doing very well. I know you're not the biggest fan of Nico Collins, but in Dynasty, he's a very valuable asset. He's not doing well. And that's, shockingly enough, it's not even his fault. It's actually CJ's fault. I mean, it's actually true. If you watch the games, like, it was actually kind of terrible. I kind of felt bad for him, how many times CJ missed it, and how many times CJ... I mean, CJ also didn't have much time in the pocket either, so it's not really his fault.
Yeah, I think it's the Texans' management's fault for trading away their only decent offensive lineman and replacing him with 2 receivers.
No, exactly. But, I mean, it's one of those things, right, where you see Nico is not doing good. And I'm not saying this trade will happen in any of our leagues or any of your leagues either, because this is just an insane trade I'm going to throw out there. But you got Jacoby Myers, and there's a contending team with Nico Collins on there, and they're just getting more and more and more and more frustrated. Here's Jacoby Myers and a first-round pick for Nico Collins. See what happens. You know what I mean? Maybe they want a little bit more or something. Maybe they want your 30-year-old running back on your bench on top of that because they're a contending team and they need it. Sure, why not? Yeah. Nico is a cornerstone piece in Dynasty. You know what I mean? Specifically, he's a top 12 receiver in Dynasty that you would want. If you can get a proven talent for a receiver that is, again, also aging. I mean, he's 20. He's not that old, but receivers last a lot longer, and he doesn't have that much mileage on him, so that's fine. But he's not Nico Collins. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, he does not give you that elite upside, that that great floor that he's given you in the past, tied to a good quarterback. None of those things. That first round pick, you don't know what it's going to be. It could be a very good player, or it could be somebody you completely miss on. You know what I mean? And that 30-year-old running back might not be very good after this year. So if you can get Nico Collins, you can feast on that fear that people have of their players not performing, or they're getting frustrated because they're a contending team and they need to win this year. Take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think kind of like bring together 3 points that we kind of made throughout the video is really just don't give up value. you're in power. Get back as much as you can.
Yeah.
You want to big point. Have your own first round pick if you're going to rebuild.
Yes.
That's huge. And then I feel like one more point to just hit on really big is just get back or don't sell every player you have. I feel like that's the other thing we echoed a lot. You want to make sure you have some guys to help you kind of insulate and compete in the future. You're not looking to rebuild for 15 or 5 years. So you don't have to trade every single player on your roster.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good talk. If you guys have any questions, you can always leave comments, let us know on X. But yeah,
we'll get back to you with answers. We're always open to help you figure out a trade if you're looking for some an outside opinion on it. So
absolutely. It was good episode today. Follow us on Rounds to Redzone on X. Subscribe, like, and comment on our video, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, everyone.